In this video, we're going to talk about a new policy that was just announced from UScis regarding interview waivers, specifically for conditional resident spouses. Those that have a 2-year green card and about to renew it for 10-year green card, those interviews are going to start being waived under certain criteria. And in this video, I'm going to tell you which interviews are going to be waived, what criteria they're going to be looking for. So this will help you understand if you will get an interview or not. So if you're interested in this topic, I'll see you on the other side. Hello everybody, and welcome back to Immigration Channel. This is a place where we get the most up-to-date immigration information, immigration news, and everything else that you need to make your immigration journey less stressful. My name is Jacob Sapochnick, and I'm an immigration attorney located in San Diego, California, and I help clients in all 50 states and all over the world. And in this video, we'll talk about a new policy coming from UScis specifically for interview waivers in cases where we have applicants for removal of conditions, those 2-year green cards that are now expired, and they're about to renew them. In many of those cases, those interviews are going to be waived. And I'll tell you what conditions will constitute interview waiver, and also we'll talk about other situations where UScis and the State Department are waiving interviews. So if you're interested in these topics, make sure you stick around to this video. But before that, if you're here for the first time, don't forget to subscribe to our channel, click the notification bell so you don't miss any of our videos, and also give us a big like so YouTube can share this video with more people just like you. So let's talk about interview waivers. And we'll start with the most recent policy change from UScis. And remember, UScis, they have policy guides for almost every single visa or benefit that they issue, and they update those policy guides once in a while. This time, this is regarding interview waivers. And remember, we have all these backlogs with cases, with interviews, and they really have to do something. And if you remember, early in the year, the State Department started waiving interviews first for non-immigrant visas and then for immigrant visas. And I can touch base on this topic as well later in this video. But now, let's go to the most recent update from UScis about conditional green cards holders, those applicants that apply for a green card to remove conditions or their residency. And the way it works, and when you file a green card based on marriage to a U.S. citizen, if you're married less than 2 years when you apply for your green card, you're only going to get a conditional green card. It's a green card that is good for 2 years. And then 90 days before the expiration of that green card, you have to file an application to remove conditions on Form I-751. And that application also requires an interview, just like in the first green card. Well, under this policy guidance, they're going to allow officers under certain conditions to waive those interviews. And by waiving those interviews, this whole process is going to be much faster. People are not going to have to wait for the interviews, and they're going to be able to process cases that will require an interview. So under what conditions they're going to be waiving those interviews? So, for example, if the applicant meets all the eligibility requirements, so for example, when you send them the file, if there's all the evidence to show that you're living together, that you're maintaining a household together, that you have all your bills, your pictures, and the life flow of your relationship from the past 2 years, if everything looks legitimate and nothing looks, there are no red flags, the officer will review the file and make a decision that this couple does not need an interview, and they'll waive the interview. The requirements state that you have to prove that you're in a bona fide relationship. So if you have enough documents to satisfy that requirement, most likely your interview will be waived as well. Also, when the officer reviews the record, there's sufficient evidence to meet that standard of bona fide relationship. They will also waive the interview at that point. If they go through the file and they don't find any evidence of fraud or any inconsistencies from your first application to the application now that you filed this case. For example, if in your first case, when you filed your green card, you stated that you had several addresses in the past 5 years, and now when you filed the application to remove conditions, your addresses do not match, that one thing could lead to an interview. It's a simple error on the form, could lead to an interview with your 751 case, and your application is not going to be eligible for interview waiver. Therefore, it's very important that you're going to stay consistent with what you submitted in the first case as opposed to what you're going to send in the second case. Those inconsistencies are going to create the assumption that something is wrong here, that's a red flag, and your case will be called for an interview. But if your application is consistent, flowing, there are no red flags, your case will also be selected for an interview waiver. If there are no issues, misrepresentation, once again, maybe you stated some facts on your first application. Those facts were included in the record. Maybe some attestations, maybe some evidence that you included, maybe some bank accounts that you included in your first application, and now in your second application, things look very, very different. And sometimes there could be an assumption of misrepresentation. If you presented something to look like one thing and now it looks different, these are also could be considered as a misrepresentation fact, and that will result in them wanting to see you for an interview to clarify that. Remember, if they need to understand more facts, if something is unclear, if they feel there was misrepresentation or fraud, they will call you for an interview, and at that point you have to explain it. But if your case is smooth, consistent, very clear on the surface, there should be no issues at all, and the officer most likely will waive your interview as well. Some people, between the first green card and the second green card, had some interaction with the law. Maybe you have a criminal record, maybe you had DUIs, maybe you had shoplifting or any other offense like that, that could result in the immigration want to see you to clarify what happened, to explain the matter, and as a result, you will have an interview. But if you don't have any criminal issues, most likely that you won't have an interview as well. So these factors were updated into the manual, the policy manual. But the most important thing is that they're not going to be automatically scheduled interviews. They're going to be reviewing those cases on a case-by-case basis and make those decisions. It's not going to be an automatic interview request. Also, in the past, many applicants who received their first green card through the consular office, through consular processing, they were referred to automatic interview with UScis before they could remove conditions. Under the new policy guidance, even if you got your green card through the embassy and you came here as a conditional resident, you're not going to be automatically referred for an interview unless you meet some of these standards that I mentioned previously. So if your case is smooth, even if you came here through consular processing, your interview could be waived as well. This is a really good announcement from UScis. It's definitely going to speed up the process of removing your conditions. Even if you're not going to have an interview in the removal of conditions, they're still going to be able to check your case when you apply for citizenship in case they miss something. So it does not mean that if you didn't have an interview to get your conditional green card, they're never going to talk to you again about this case. They may bring it up again at your citizenship application. So keep that in mind as well. So this is great news. Hopefully we're going to see a faster movement of cases now that more and more applications are going to get their interviews waived. Now, as I mentioned before, early in the year, they started removing interviews for non-immigrant visas, specifically those people that are renewing visas in the same category within 48 months of expiration, and also for immigrant visas, people that already issued an immigrant visa, but for some reason they were not able to exercise the right to enter with that visa. Typically, immigrant visas are only issued for 6 months, and if you're not able to get your visa because you're not able to travel because of COVID, you should be able to renew that immigrant visa without an interview. Quite a few applicants like that are spread around the world, and it's going to save them a lot of time, but also it's going to save the consulate some time, and hopefully will allow them to focus on other cases. So interview waivers are a real thing. They continue to expand, and as we know more of these incidents, and I will be able to report to you what's happening in our office once we start seeing more of these interviews being waived. So once again, hopefully you found this information helpful. If you did, make sure to share this video with somebody that needs it or cares. Leave me a comment, let me know what other questions you have. And as always, if you need help to file your conditional removal case, text me here, 619-483-4549. We are here for you. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.